Yep, guys. So in yesterday's session, like we started with drivers, creating drivers, importing drivers, then creating driver packages, distributing those driver packages, and also importing the network and storage drivers into boot images. Right. So that's one part what we discussed, and then what is the difference between auto apply drivers and apply driver package in a task sequence. Right. So how do you install drivers as part of task sequence that we have discussed. And after that we went into USMT part. So we have installed state migration point, and we have seen like how do you capture the user data. I've shown you the MIG file on the state migration point and how do you restore it back onto a different machine. So we have run capture task sequence and replace task sequence. So that was pretty much covered yesterday. And to be honest with that, actually we have completed the OSD part, because in OSD we have touched upon right from creating an image, deploying that image. We've touched on the OS layer. We've touched on the hardware layer yesterday. We've touched on the hardware layer is the drivers, right? That was touched yesterday, and then we discussed about the applications layer or the software layer, right? Installing the core apps in the baked image. So in the image itself, we are baking those core apps, or you can install the LOB apps as part of the task sequence. And then finally, yesterday we also discussed the user layer, which is user data migration, right? So with that, the major portion of task sequence or the foundation of task sequence, everything is covered, right? The only thing which is left over is kind of automation, which is again subject to different company requirements. We integrate MDT, and that's entirely a different topic. But whatever SCM can do by default has been covered up. So guys, do you have any questions in operating system deployments, or do you have any other scenarios that you wanted me to discuss as part of these OSD sessions before we proceed into the next topics?
No, me at this point, no. Unless I start, you know, testing it on the lab, then I'll have some queries. Probably I'll take it up later.
Okay, okay. So what about others, Manju and Sai? I think Manju is traveling. Um, Sai, yep.
I have also not completed that at Manohar. Maybe today I'll complete it
Oh,
in the lab session.
got it, got it.
So Manor, I'm also trying to speak. Like maybe I will also once once come back and do try testing it. Then I will have a question. I'll come back to you.
Okay, okay, okay. No issues, guys. So the kind of log files which are related to this, we've discussed on the smsts.log. Okay. See, as long as your task sequence is running in the background, right? This smsts.log file, based on at what stage you are, it keeps on moving from one location to another location. For instance, like when the hard disk itself is not formatted, right? So it will be on the X drive, and once your hard disk is formatted, then and your SCM client agent is not installed, right? So then it will be under SMSTS log folder, and later on when the once the client agent is installed, now it is considered as a SCM client agent log file, right? It is an SCM log file. So that's the reason it goes under your C Windows CCM. Under C Windows CCM, it will create SMSTS log folder, and there it will have this SMSTS. And later on, once the task sequence is completed, this log file sits outside that folder, that is directly under C Windows CCM. Like this particular log file, why I'm telling all these different locations is like you never know at what stage the task sequence will fail. Task sequence might fail just before partitioning the hard disk, or task sequence may fail after partitioning, there is no OS installed, or OS is installed but SCM client agent is not there, right? Or after SCM client agent is installed, it fails, right? So based on at what stage it fails, you need to know the location where to check this SMSTS log file, right? So that is important, and this is most common interview question that we see. So just go through those locations once. So what you can do is, as you guys said that you haven't started an OS deployment, so do that, and then you yourself can find at each stage you can go to that particular location and see how the log file behaves, and what are at what stage if it fails where it will be, right? You guys can explore that. And let me see if there is anything else that I can cover. I think I've also shown you the reports related to this, right? We discussed on the task sequence deployment status, specific task sequence on a specific computer, or just a specific task sequence deployment, and which shows whether it is succeeded or failed on all the different computers. So I think that has been covered. I'm just thinking loud. What else are pending as part of OSD? Right, this is what we have discussed. Status of a specific task sequence deployment, as well as status summary of a specific task sequence deployment. So this will just summarize whether it is succeeded, failed, for all the machines, and then you can then again go to the granular report to get more details. So under estimate administration, so the new role that we have added as part of OSD one, we have enabled PXE on the distribution point, right? So that's one thing what we did. Sorry, right? So this is one thing what we did, enabling PXE on the distribution point, and the second thing what we did was state migration point. So yesterday we have installed state migration point, right? Mm, okay, so let me start with patch management for today, because it looks like we have covered pretty much on the OSD part. So any one of you, Amma, Manju, or Sai, can you please tell me what is patch management, and how is that managed currently in your organization? So what do you know about patch management?
I just try to gather information. Uh, Patch management is nothing like which cover which is a bug fix for the every time release in the future, or whatever bugs are present, and which has some development. So it's kind of patches. It will be released from the Microsoft every month, once a day. So that patch if it will be applied in the production area, that will secure our machines to not to leak outside, and also a system bug fix such type of thing.
So based on what you just said, so Microsoft releases patches once in a month, right? And this is, patch management is all about installing these patches to your machines and make sure that they are not vulnerable, right? That is, they don't leak information outside, or bug fix. Okay, fine. Others? Sai, Amar?
And
Go
yeah,
ahead.
as Manju said, this is basically any releases from Microsoft has been patched through Sccm on the end user devices. So that's what even I am aware about.
Okay. Sai? Okay. And okay. Okay. Fine. Thanks, Case. So basically, we are talking about Microsoft releases some patches once in a month, and those patches are required for some kind of bug fixes or some kind of if your machines are vulnerable for some attacks, to make sure that your machines are covered or protected. Microsoft releases patches, and you wanted to make sure that all those patches are installed on your environment. So guys, have you seen any patch management process, like forget about SCCM or technical process? What is the default process followed by all these companies? So how do they install patches? Not technically, I don't want technical, but what is the process typically they follow? Any idea?
Once they download the patch they will test it in some group. Then, if it is success, then they will apply it to the production.
Okay, so testing of patches. Good, good, Manju. So testing of patches is involved as an important step. So then they install those patches into the production environment. Anything else, guys? Do you want to add more to this, Amar or Sai? Okay.
No,
Yeah, Amar, go ahead.
no, I said nothing to add.
Okay, okay, fine. So let me just introduce this everything about the patch management. So basically what happens is, just like you get updates to your any software that you have, okay? Any software, nowadays we are all using smartphones, so we have so many apps on our phones, and we see constantly the apps being updated, right? And also we see that constantly we get some updates. If you're having an iPhone, you see iOS updates. If you're having Android, you see Android updates, right? So those updates are not only for protecting you from some kind of data leakage, or protecting you from some kind of hackers and all that. It is also sometimes some functionality improvements, right? Some new features are added with each update, right? And sometimes there is a bug, or there is an issue, and we fix it. We call it as hotfix in case of right operating system patches. We call them as hotfixes. So if there is an issue and they wanted to fix it, so Microsoft releases hotfixes, right? So first of all, what is the cycle? So every second Tuesday is what we call it as Patch Tuesday, and that is when Microsoft will release the patches, right? Every month, second Tuesday or the Patch Tuesday, that's what when Microsoft releases patches. So when we say patches, so patches includes, it could be a security update, which is it can be a critical update, right? And then you must have seen upgrades, okay? And you must have seen hot fixes, service packs, right? So what's the difference between them? So what's the difference between a security update and a service pack? Amar? Manju? Yeah, Manju, I see you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Security updates maybe it makes our uh, firewall area stronger, and not to leak the information, allow to leak any information to the unknown uh, network. Maybe that kind of update. It it includes application also maybe updates and critical which is must required for Windows Windows or application to run properly, which will not be affecting with this any bug fix or stopping that some updates are not present, something like that. Upgrades is update of a new versions. Hotfix again fixing up extra top of some patch, covering up security, something like that. Service packs are for Windows.
Okay, okay. True, Manju, but I was asking between a security update and a service pack. So, or an update. Forget about security thing. So, an update and a service pack. What you said is true, but can you compare these two, Amar or Sai?
Security update and updates.
No, security update and the service pack.
Service pack. Okay. Service pack is not a much really sure. Just have not never not getting any analysis on service pack. Security updates are just for the making our network stronger, not to leak any information. Such kind of coding will be there for the security updates.
Okay, okay. So, Amar and Sai, I'm not hearing anything from you guys. You must have installed patches on your own. You must have installed, when you install an operating system, you must have installed service packs.
This pack, the fix the bugs, the bug existing with the OS, I guess. I'm not sure actually.
Mhm.
Security patches are where to build the existing OS securities. I mean, I cannot clearly explain it.
No issues, no issues. I just wanted you to think, right? I just wanted you to think. If you know, it's fine. If you don't know, also it is fine. I just wanted you to think. Okay, fine. Yes. So basically, the thing here is, see, every month Microsoft is releasing security updates, and it is releasing hot fixes, right? It is releasing critical updates, and over a period of time, like 6 months down the line, or 1 year down the line. Now, say suppose Microsoft released Windows 7 operating system, okay, and after 1 year they have so many updates which were released over the period of this 1 year, right? Now if somebody wants to install Windows 7, they have to first install Windows 7. After that, they have to keep their machine online for all these updates from Microsoft update site to download all these updates which were released in the last 1 year, right? And download and install them. So that way, though the machine we are saying it as Windows 7, but the machine is not ready until unless all these updates are installed, and only then the machine is ready for production usage. So to avoid that, what Microsoft comes up with is after a certain period of time when it feels like okay there are enough number of security updates, okay, enough number of hotfixes are there. So hotfixes are like those are not released on Patch Tuesday. Those are like hotfixes as and when an issue is identified. So anytime a hotfix can be released. But typically the security updates, what will happen over a period of time, all of them are bundled together, okay, and included in a service pack. This way, if you have Windows 7 and after a certain time is service pack 1 is released, so you don't need to install all these patches which were released in between. The moment you have Windows 7 SP1, that means that is an accepted standard of Windows 7 which has all the valid updates included in it, right? So why I'm saying valid? Because what will happen, say suppose Microsoft released a patch in the month of May, okay? in the month of June, there are chances of expiring that patch and creating a new update to it. Say suppose there is one update which was released called as KB1 in April 2017. Okay, so maybe there are 3 KBs which are released: KB1, KB2. KBs are like knowledge based, right? So that is what Microsoft releases, these patches. Now in the month of May, say suppose they release KB4 and KB5. Now these each KB is for a definitive different purpose. They are released for different reasons. One could be for a security issue, and another thing can be there is a problem in Internet Explorer, right? The other thing could be related to a feature or functionality update, right? So for each and every KB, they are released for different purposes. Now in the month of June, they might release KB6 and KB7, okay, in June, and they'll call it as, they'll clearly mention KB6 will supersede KB2. Okay, that means they are expiring KB2 and released KB6 in place of KB2. That means it is an enhancement for KB2. Whatever KB2 was supposed to do, okay, they found out from their users or from their internal testing during the period from April to June, they found out that KB2 is not complete and it requires some more enhancement, right? Or they made a code change so that now KB6 will have the complete, the complete security, wherever the loophole is there. So they are now covered that with KB6. So that means since KB2 is also doing the same thing and KB6 is an enhanced version of the same thing, same activity. So there's no need for you to again install KB2, right? Say suppose now you're building a machine in July 2017. Right? If you're building a machine in July 2017, you don't need to install KB1 to 7. Maybe you can install KB1, you can skip KB2, install KB3, KB4, 5, 6 and 7 because 6 is superseding 2. So you don't need to install 2 again. Make sense? So like this, what Microsoft is doing is they'll be expiring some patches during the course of time. They'll be expiring old patches. They'll be superseding them with some new patches. So because of that, I use the word valid. So after say suppose 1 year down the line, like maybe June 2018, right? So Microsoft will see right from the actual version. Say suppose we are talking about Windows 10 or something, Windows 7. So after releasing Windows 7 in the month of, we'll assume that they have released in the month of April 2017. So in 2018 June, they'll see out of all the patches that were released in the last 1 year, what are the patches which are valid, right? And they'll include those. And in addition to that, if there are any new patches, all of them bundled together as a service pack. So service pack 1 or 2. So now what will happen when somebody wants to build a machine in June 2018, they don't need to install all these patches. They will directly install Windows Service Pack 1 or Windows Service Pack 2, whichever is the service pack released in that month. They will install that. Guys, is this point clear?
Yes, Manan.
Okay. Okay. So now this used to be the case till Windows 8, 8.1, right? Starting from Windows 10, the service pack concept has been removed. So what they're doing now is, see, service pack, there was no constant cycle, like how frequently service packs will be released. It's not a constant cycle, right? So to make it more predictable to the end user to know when a particular bundled version will be released from Microsoft, and to know what kind of features will be added to it, right? So what they have done now is, instead of releasing service packs and all, you must have you heard about a term called Windows as a service? And have you heard something like CB, CBB, and LTSB? Any one of you?
No, not.
Okay. Others?
Hmm.
Same.
No, Manan.
Okay, okay, okay. Cool. So,
But what first VAS also I'm not.
sure, sure. I'll explain that. So, VAS is nothing but, as I told you, it is Windows as a service. So what they're trying to do is, so see, nowadays we are seeing in Azure cloud everything like infrastructure as a service, software as a service, right? So everything is now provided as a service. So if you consider as something like your Gmail, so Gmail, or even the one that we are using, Google Drive, right? For uploading our videos and all, we are using Google Drive, right? So this is already a kind of a software as a service which we were using from long time, and we never know that it is a cloud service. Because see, when you're using your email, right, whether you're connected to your network or not, right? So wherever you are, even if you're in India or overseas, wherever you are, you can just open Gmail and you're able to access your emails, right? Or emails or your resource or some data that you have uploaded, your photos or whatever. So that means this particular thing has been stored on cloud, and that software is provided to you as a service. So Gmail is a software which is provided to you as a service. O365. Now we are talking about Office 365, right? So no more you need to have an Exchange server, and you don't need to connect to your corporate network to access your emails. You can even access your emails from outside the corporate network. You can use it from your mobile phones, tablets, so it is not device independent, device dependent, right? So O365, the Office 365 piece is again a software as a service, right? So now we are talking about everything as a service is provided. So similarly, they have come up with something called Windows as a service, and instead of you installing these patches and all that, and instead of you upgrading from Windows 7 to Windows 10 or Windows XP to Windows 7, right, as a new operating system, you don't need to do that henceforth. So what you'll do is, automatically, just like your patches are released once in a month, your OS itself will be released as just as a patch, as an upgrade, right? So that's what they meant by Windows as a service. So I'll just repeat this concept once again. So you must have seen earlier, if you just compare with this, you'll clearly understand. See, iOS is an operating system, right? Which comes on your iPhone or your iPads. You guys must have seen iOS. So this iOS, which is the Apple's operating system, so are you buying each time whenever Apple releases iOS 10 or iOS 11, are you buying the operating system and installing it or upgrading your machines to that? No, right? So even about Androids. So Android has multiple fancy names, right? Every time they release a new operating system, they got fancy names. So are you, buying the licenses for that new operating system and downloading that operating system and installing? No, right? So automatically, whenever there is an update, you used to get upgraded to that new operating system of Android or Apple. But in case of Windows, the traditionally the thing is, like, if you are an XP and you want to move to Windows 7, the entire interface is changing and it is a completely new operating system. You need to format your hard disk and install it. So there is a big process around it, right? So operating system is a migration part when it comes to Windows, right? So now what we are talking about, even from XP to 7 or 7 to 10, Those were like big upgradations and migration projects, but from afterwards 10 there will not be Windows 11, there will not be Windows 12. So what Microsoft is planning, it is Windows as a service. Like every 4 months or periodically you'll get an upgrade version, which itself is a newer operating system, so new features are added to it, right? So that's the new concept. So wherein you are not downloading as a separate, or you're not paying license and downloading as a newer operating system and installing, it is coming as part of your Windows update cycle. Guys, is this part clear to you, or any questions here?
I just got confused from where you started saying that Windows mobile related example you were giving. So from there, I just started getting clarity and then I got confused.
Sure, sure. I'll explain it again. Sai and Amar, is the point clear to you?
Yes, man.
Yes, Manu.
Okay. So I want one of you guys, Sai or Amar, I want you to explain it to Manju. Whatever you understood about Windows as a service, I want one of you to explain, Manju.
Uh, as we normally install iOS part, the Windows, sorry, the Microsoft is providing us uh, operating system and update part itself. Am I correct, Manu?
Yes, yes, yes. Go ahead, go ahead. You are correct.
So where we can, so the already installed operating system will be, the upgradation part will be coming from the software patch itself. That's what I could understand.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep. So Manju, just to reiterate that part, see, if you have to install, you are on, assume that you are on Windows 7. You have to install Windows 8. How do you do that? You have to download Windows 8 ISO, right? Or you have to get the CD DVD, or you have to do an operating system deployment to migrate or upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 8, right? You have to format your machine, you have to take backup of user data, drivers installation. So this is a complete OS deployment process that we have seen, right? But is it the same case when you're updating your iPad from older iOS version, say suppose iOS 9 to iOS 10 if you're upgrading? So is it the same process? No, you're not downloading any ISOs, or you're not doing it. Is as part of Windows, as part of iOS updates. It says that I found a new update, so I found that your iOS version, a new iOS version is available for you, and it takes some time. It downloads that, and it installs on its own periodically. So periodically, whenever Apple releases new iOS version, so it gets installed. Same goes with Androids. Even on your Android phones, you must have seen the same thing. If there was Jelly Bean, after that they have released. I don't follow up much with Androids, but yes, they have all those fancy names. So every time a new operating system is released, they give a fancy name to it, and that operating system comes as an update on your Android phones, and they get installed. So the way traditionally how Windows are installing is different from how iOS or Androids are installing, right? Now, but those are for mobile workforces, for mobile devices, right? But Windows is into the business of not only just mobiles, it is into the business of devices like when we laptops and desktops, right? So now what we are talking about here is even for desktops and laptops, how about every 4 months you get a new upgrade. Okay, the new upgrade itself is a new operating system, considered as a new operating system, for example. So instead of Microsoft releasing Windows 11 tomorrow or Windows 12 in the future, they're going to release the same Windows 10 with new upgrade, which will be released once in 4 months as a patch itself, and you just download and install it, and that's it, you're on the newer version of the OS. Make sense, Manju? So that is Windows as a service. It is not as the whole process. It is coming as a service. You getting my point, Manju?
Yeah, I am getting.
Okay. So now, out of this topic of Windows as a service, so they have divided that into three parts. The first thing is current branch. CB is current branch. Next one is current branch for business. And then you have long-term servicing branch. Okay, CB, CBB, and LTSB. Amar, I see you unmuted. You have a question here.
Yeah, Madhav. So these terminologies were started, Windows as a service came into after Windows 8 or
Windows,
just
Windows 10.
Windows 7,
Windows 10. Windows
Windows
10.
10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and even supporting them, installing this CB, CBBS, and LTSB, the support itself in SCCM also came recently. So if you have 2012 R2, SCCM 2012 R2, you'll not be able to install these different current branch for business as part of from SCCM. You can't do that. You can only install patches, but you can't install these upgrades or updates. You can't do them. So even that is a latest addition, latest inclusion into SCCM. Okay, so this is not there from 7 or 8. Go ahead.
If we go ahead and upgrade it like 1610 and 1703, I think, won't these features be available then?
Upgrading what? Upgrading your SCM?
SCCM, yeah.
No, they will be there. So what I meant to say is in 2012 R2 we don't have it starting from, as you said, 1602, 1611 or 1703 that we have. So every time you're 1702, right? So every time you're upgrading, so you're getting these, they're enhancing the same thing. But Windows as a service started after 2012 R2. So even in 2012 R2, it is not there. That's what I meant.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So now what is this current branch? Current branch for business. Now you know that every 4 months Microsoft is going to release a okay, I'll just put here. So what is this? This is nothing but, as we were discussing about service packs, I told starting from Windows 10 there is no service pack. So what's happening now is, so every 4 months Microsoft is releasing, including all those security updates and also some functionality changes. Like for example, if you see the way Cortana behaves, okay, upgrades into the Cortana, or changes into the Edge, Microsoft Edge. Right? Earlier we used to have Internet Explorer, so now we have Microsoft Edge. So changes into the functionality of how Microsoft Edge behaves. So some of the feature updates, okay, based on the feedback that we receive from our customers, or sometimes based on the we have our own R&D center, so based on our research, and so we keep on including new things, support for HoloLens, or support for Continuum. So there are different things. We are talking about security things, right? Yesterday I've discussed, I've just briefed about credential guard, device guard, app locker, BitLocker. So there are many Windows Hello for Business, right? Where there used to be Microsoft Passport. So there are so many security features which Microsoft is including in each version of each version of the release that they're making. Now, this current branch is for non-enterprise users. That means home users. If somebody has Windows 10, right, at their home, so every 4 months they can upgrade to the current branch, right? So at home, how do you get the updates? So by default, if you have internet, it'll check for updates. It'll connect to the Microsoft Update website, right? We don't have any WSUS, SCM servers infrastructure in for our home machines. All it does is every now and then whenever Microsoft releases patches, it will be checking for updates and it will download, right? So, and it's up to you whether you want it to install or not. So we can set on our laptop either to download and install automatically, or just download and let you know when to install, or not even download. It will just notify you that these are the new updates released by Microsoft. You yourself can select which one you want to download and install. So that functionality what we have in our home machines, that still remains same, but this time you are also getting this current branch as part of monthly patches, right? So every 4 months you get this for non-enterprise users. Now what will happen, these non-enterprise users, they'll start using this current branch, and based on their Microsoft has this telemetry. Telemetry means it will be continuously collecting information, excuse me, excuse me. So Microsoft will be collecting this information from the backend, like how this current branch is behaving, if there are any crashes on your machine, right? And also we have insider previews, right? So there will be some of the users who will be testing this current branch. So based on their feedback and also based on the telemetry results, if it has to make any enhancements or any changes to that, that will be made and is released as CBB for enterprise users after another 4 months. That means for every 8 months, CBB will be released. Every 4 months, CB is released, and every 8 months, CBB is released. So CBB is nothing but the same current branch, but with including any feedback received from the home users, or current branch will be installed on within Microsoft. Current branch will be installed to all the Microsoft employees, and also there will be many people who enrolled into insider previews and preview builds. So to them, or they will also share the feedback, right? And also from the telemetry. So with all this information, before releasing it into the business environments, to the business users, to the enterprise users, they'll do proper testing, and they'll include some of the bug fixes and all, and that will be released as CBB after next 4 months. That means every 8 months you are getting a CBB. Is this part clear till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, what is LTSB? Say suppose you have a ATM machine. Now this ATM machine is running Windows 10. Every 4 months, if it is getting a current branch and current branch for business, every 4 months if it is getting upgraded, okay, what is there in this current branch and current branch for business is the first question. So there are two things in it. One is, as Manju was telling us, so one is the security updates part, which is protecting your machine, or strengthening your network. So that is one piece of the this current branch. All the security updates are included in that. What is the other piece to it? The other piece is functionality updates. Just like for every operating system, you have new features, new functionalities, new interface. So all that is a new good to have kind of things, right? Now, for a machine like ATM or a kiosk, it doesn't bother whether there are new functionalities included or not, new features are there or not. All it matters is whether the machine is protected or not, right? For such machines which are like the POS devices, they have a particular software running on the machine at all the times, and all it matters is whether it is secured or not. It doesn't matter whether new functionalities, new features, fancy GUIs are given to it or not, right? But those machines will go for long-term servicing branch, right? So what does this long-term servicing branch will have? They will have only the security updates. They will not have any feature updates, any functionality updates, right? Say suppose if Windows 10 is released in the month of maybe let's take in 2015, Windows 7 is released, Windows 10 is released in 2015. Okay, now you can it will release um, till 2025. Say suppose let me put it this way: 2015 Windows 10, the initial version. Say suppose I'm not going with the year, it's just a example that I'm giving here. Maybe in 2015 it is released. Okay, now what Microsoft will release is an LTSB version, Windows 10 2017. Okay, in 2017 LTSB is released. Now what will happen, what currently Microsoft says is for next 5 years to 10 years, it will not release next version of Windows 10 LTSB. So that means Windows 10 LTSB of next version will be released in 2022 or 2027. That means for another 5 to 10 years, even if you have your current LTSB and regularly you're updating patches to it, right, your machine is good. It is not going to disturb your machine every 4 months installing something or other patch, right, or some functionality update. It will not do that. So all the required patches are included in 2017 LTSB, and the next version of new patches will be given, new with all the new patches will be given after 5 years or 10 years. So meanwhile, what you can have is you can have monthly patches onto that Windows 10 machine, which is your ATM machine, right? Monthly, anyhow, the patches will come, and you'll install those patches over the weekends or non-peak hours between midnight to 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock when the usage of ATMs or the production machines are less. During those times, those patches will be installed. So that's a different story that anyways we'll discuss in detail. But here to understand the difference between CB, CBB and LTSB, LTSB is installed for machines where only security is the concern and functionalities, feature updates is not at all a concern. Is this part clear, guys? Or any questions here? Amar, what did you understood by LTSB?
So Manoj, as per my understanding, what I have understood is the update on the operating system. They would release after the RTM is released. They would release in LTSP, which would be wherein there wouldn't be any changes for the next 5 years on that particular uh, updated LTSP. 5 to 10 years is what I understand.
Mhm. And when it is,
There wouldn't
yeah, go
be
ahead.
any servicing. They wouldn't be doing any servicing for that particular operating system.
Okay, okay. Um, and on which machines you need them? What kind of machines requires LTSB?
Uh, mm, mm, POS,
Yes, POS, kiosks, ATMs, right?
ATMs.
Yep. So let me just pull Microsoft TechNet document or article on this so that we have a proper definition here. Guys, are you able to see the article or the document? Guys, are you able to see my screen with the new document?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, let me just go through these things real quick. So in the CB servicing model, which is the current branch servicing model, feature updates are available as soon as Microsoft releases them, right? And Windows 10 had few servicing tool options, blah, blah, blah. And the CB servicing model is idle for, yeah. So the CB servicing model or the current branch servicing is ideal for pilot deployments and testing of Windows 10 feature updates. So whenever Microsoft is releasing the feature updates, right? So as and when Microsoft releases them, those are part of the current branch, right? And it is for developers or as I told you for home users. So that's where CB comes into picture, right? But when we are talking about current branch for business, okay, so CB releases a transition to CBB after about 4 months, right? So every 4 months you are getting a CB, and after next 4 months the CB is transitioned into CBB, right? So indicating that Microsoft and ISP and partners and customers believe that the release is ready for broad deployment. So now it is ready for the enterprise deployment the moment they release CBB, right, guys? And Yeah, anyways, I'm going to discuss about this differ updates. That is a little bit later. And now LTSB. Specialized systems such as PCs that control medical equipment, point of sale systems and ATMs often require a long servicing option because of their purpose, right? These devices typically perform a single important task and don't need feature updates. It doesn't need any feature updates as frequently as other devices in the organizations. It's more important that these devices are kept as stable and secure as possible, right? So the main thing is security is important and the machine should be stable, and feature updates is not that important for these machines, right? The point of sale system, the POS or the ATMs or the medical equipment, such kind of devices, or the traffic controlling devices. So for those, what we'll do, we'll install LTSB for them. So LTSB itself is a different media. So how you're installing Windows 10, when you're installing Windows 10 Home, Windows 10 Enterprise, Windows 10 Professional, so you can download Windows 10 LTSB. It itself is a different media. And if you're installing Windows 10 LTSB on any machine, you'll not find many of the features there. For example, you don't find store. Typically, we get Windows with a store, right? You get Windows with when you're installing Windows 10, it comes with Candy Crush Saga by default, or some games are there. So when you're talking about POS or kiosks or such kind of machines, you don't need all those games, or you don't need some fancy features in it. So if you install Windows 10 LTSB media, okay, it comes with the bare minimal operating system which is required, and after that, as I told you, every 5 years or 10 years, Microsoft releases only the security updates for it to keep it more stable and secure, and that's how LTSB is designed. Clear, guys? Now,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, cool. So now, going back to our initial thing, so security updates and critical updates, yes. So we understand what those are. So upgrades are nothing but, now we are talking about CB, CBB, LTSB, or you call those are kind of newer operating system versions with feature updates and all that. Hot fixes, as we discussed, like no need for them to come only on Patch Tuesday. As and when there are any issues, say suppose there is an issue with .NET framework with the latest version of Microsoft Edge. Okay, if you have .NET framework and Microsoft Edge so and so version, it is causing some issues while a particular kind of an application is opening, right? That's a very specified situation where because of the way .NET framework is designed, or because of the way the Microsoft Edge is designed, uh, it is failing on a particular application or on a particular instance, right? So that is a specified situation which will be informed to Microsoft either from the Microsoft R&D department, or it is collected, that information is collected from individual user machines using telemetry. So Microsoft in the backend, it runs the telemetry service. So you must have seen many a times when there is an issue, crash, something happen, it will ask, do you want to send this information to Microsoft or not? Right? So if you say yes, that information is sent, right? So such kind of information gathered. So based on that, Microsoft will understand that, okay, because of this particular code in the Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer and with .NET framework or with Visual C++, in this particular combination, these are the kind of errors which are happening. So it is kind of a hot fix. When installed on a machine, it will make sure that that particular code is rectified, right? If something is hard coded in the code, so that is rectified. So these hotfixes are not required to be released in a periodical fashion. And then if you have seen any hotfixes release documents, it will be clearly mentioned as this is uh, released for a specific purpose, and only if you are seeing these symptoms on your machine like X, Y, Z, like 1, 2, 3, if you are seeing these symptoms, only then install it, otherwise it is not required, right? So only if your machines are having that kind of an issue, only then you're going with hotfix. Otherwise, it is not a mandatory thing that on all machines, the moment Microsoft releases, you have to install. No, it is only when you have that issue, you go and install, download and install the hotfixes, right? For a specific purpose. Then service specs we have discussed, and that is no more, that is not going to be continued further. So you will only see upgrades in future. Those are CB, CBBs and LTSB. Guys, if you understand this entire patch management ecosystem, patch release, then we can proceed with the next step. Any questions? I'm ready to take any questions till now. Okay, I take it as no questions. Now, we were discussing about the patch management process. Forget about SCM, forget about WSUS. What is the patch management process typically followed in any company, or what is the best practice? So the best practice here is, say suppose Microsoft is releasing some 100 patches in Jan 2017. Okay, this is on a second Tuesday in the month of Jan 2017. Now, sometimes in the same month, Microsoft will on the Wednesday, or after a couple of days, Microsoft will release a kind of a bulletin or information saying that out of the 100 patches that we've released, there's an issue with one patch, so do not install it. They'll kind of release a security information and they'll immediately expire that patch. Right, so sometimes it happens that they release a patch, but they'll get to know that that patch is creating some other issues, because they might have considered 10 different scenarios or 100 different scenarios and tested it out, but each environment is different. Okay, just to give you an example, like if MS Office is installed, MS Office 2013 is installed, okay, and you have .NET, uh, some version of .NET framework, you have VC++, okay, some 2015, like this, and you're running on a Windows 7 SP1. So suppose this is the environment that typically Microsoft tested, like okay, in Windows 7 SP1, wherein MS Office 2013 is there, .NET so and so version, VC++ is there. How is this patch working? Is it working perfectly or not? They have tested it. Similarly, they've made some permutation and combination. They've tested in different versions, like how about MS Office 2016? Okay, is there any issue and is it really fixing the problem? So they may have tested this. But when you are actually going to the end user environment, okay, how it will be? The end user environment could be something like on a single machine, there is MS Office 2010 is running. On the same machine, Office 2013 is also parallelly running. Okay, different version of Office is also running parallelly. Yes, it is possible, right? The coexistence is there in Office. So Office 2010 is running, 2013 is running, and on top of it they have .NET older versions. Still they're having 1.1 version of .NET, right? And they have a different environment altogether. And maybe they have Adobe Flash Player 8, which is old one. Now what happens with this deadly combination? Maybe this particular patch is failing, is causing some other issue. They are not able to open their documents, or while trying to save the documents, it is throwing a crash error, right? So with different environments, we never know how a particular security patch which is released will behave. So even though Microsoft tested in 100 different ways, we are not sure how it will behave towards the end user device, end user environment. So that's the reason, even though Microsoft tests all the patches, right? Sometimes after Microsoft release the patches in the same month, they might release a security bulletin, maybe after a couple of days or a week, saying that okay, out of these 100 patches, we have decided that a couple of patches are creating issues, so we have expired them for now until we release the new superseded patches. For now, those are expired, so don't install those patches, right? So now, say suppose you have 98 patches by end of Jan 2017. So Microsoft released some patches 100, but by end of Jan, you have 98 patches, right? So say suppose if you're installing these 100 patches as and when Microsoft releases, you are installing them. So you are going to, I will not say you'll definitely face issues, but you might face issues because Microsoft has decided to expand that patch for certain reasons, but you have already installed them on your entire machine. So say suppose you have 10,000 machines and you install all the 100 patches. Now, again, it is an overhead task for you to identify out of these 10,000 machines, how many machines have got these two patches, and where and all it is causing issue, right? And then uninstalling those patches. So it is going to be an overhead task to you, right? So in order to avoid that, what we do is whenever Microsoft releases patches, we wait for maybe a couple of days and then we install it on pilot machines. So instead of 10,000 machines, you'll pick 100 pilot machines, right? You pick 100 pilot machines and you install all these 100 patches on those 100 pilot machines. Now, what are the benefits that you're getting from this? One, even if Microsoft expires some patches, you are saved because you're not pushing them to your production environment. You just pushed it to pilot. Second, even out of those 98, which Microsoft considers good patches, 98 patches, maybe a couple of them are not working for you, are creating issues for you, right? So when you install them on your, looks like every time I press C first and T later, my fingers are a little slower. Okay, uh, so out of these 98 patches, 2 are already expired. Out of these 98 patches, maybe another couple of them, like 2 or 3 patches, out of these 100 pilot machines when you're choosing them, right? So maybe they're not working for you in your environment. So it is saving you from there. Instead of pushing them to 10,000 machines and then facing an issue, it is always preferred to have it installed on some 100 pilot machines. Now, so how do you choose these 100 pilot machines? It's very important that you choose them based on your different environments. That is, for example, how about a English machine and a non-English machine? That means you have an English operating system and you have a non-English like French, German or Spanish operating system, right? So to check, that's a wide variety, right? Different variety based on language. Then how about choosing one machine from IT department and one machine from a non-IT department? Because IT uses a different set of applications, non-IT people use a different set of applications. So how is it behaving with those different set of applications? How about using somebody with older versions of operating system and older versions of Office products or any Microsoft products for that matter, and newer versions of the product, right? So when you have a mixture of all of them, so it is not like you should not randomly pick the 100 pilot machines. Those 100 pilot machines are there for a reason. They are your kind of border security force. They are going to take the bullets first. So let decide based on whom you wanted to keep at your border, right? They should represent the entire organization. The kind of ecosystem, the kind of applications that you have in your entire organization should be represented by these 100 pilot machines. So choose in a proper way that they have different kinds of operating system languages, different kind of applications, versions, and different departments, right? Different portfolios. So based on that, choose those 100 pilot machines and install all these patches as and when Microsoft releases them, right? Now, what we do here is, as part of testing, what is to be considered? The first thing you will check is, in the event viewer, do you have any errors after installing it? First is visible errors. Even before going to event viewer, visible errors, like the moment you install the patches and restart it and you are seeing a crash on your laptop, or you're seeing a crash on the regular application that you use, right? So those are directly visible errors that after installing patch I see that there is a BSOD, blue screen of death, or there is a some crash is happening, or the machine restarts suddenly, or the application I just open it and immediately it closes off automatically with throwing an error, some DLL or some kind of error it is throwing and closing off. Those are some visible errors. Okay, the other kind of thing is, okay, there's no visible error, but when you go to event viewer, you find that it records an error saying that when you're trying to open some kind of an application, okay, it is throwing an error. So those are the things that you wanted to check. And once you check for visible errors or any recorded errors, right, then you leave it for at least for 1 month for the user to experience and come back. Those are experience errors, like experiencing, like they might find that after a particular patch is installed, the particular application is very slow. Okay, that cannot be immediately noted down in the same way in the very first day, right? The visible error, or it's not recorded somewhere in the event viewer. But maybe you're trying to open your Microsoft Edge. So until last month it was quicker, but this month I see Microsoft Edge is damn slow. I don't know why. So whenever I'm trying to open any application, any website, it loads slow, right? So that is a experience kind of thing. So such kind of an experience comes out only when you're allowing your users to use those work on those machines for at least a certain period of time. So let them use it for 1 month, right? So I'm just talking about the process, and this has nothing to do with SCCM, WSUS, or any other patch management tool that you're using. It might be Quest, it could be Alteris, it could be Landers, it could be Marimba, BMC, right? There are multiple other tools which does patch management in this world, right? Irrespective of them, this is a standard process that you need to follow, that have a set of pilot machines, install the patches as and when Microsoft releases them, and check for visible errors, check for recorded errors, check for experiences, user experiences, right? And leave them for a month. Now, in the month of February, so let's assume that Microsoft released another 70 patches. Come on, patches in Feb 2017, right? So these are the new patches which Microsoft has released. Now what will happen, you need to make sure that since 1 month is completed now, and out of these 100 patches, Microsoft has already retired a couple of patches. So now you have 98, and out of those 98, you found those couple of patches as visible errors, right? And maybe one patch you find that there is it is loading slowly, and there is an user experience issue, right? So, and meanwhile, what Microsoft has done, next month when they're releasing 70 patches, they identified that out of these 98 patches, even one more people has informed them that there is a user experience issue. So they will retire one of these. They say, okay, now you have only 97 patches, and we have superseded that one patch with the latest one in the 70 patches thing. Fine. So you have 97 patches now, which were released in January. What you will do, 97 patches, download it and install to your prod environment. That means for your 9,900 machines, these 97 patches are going. And new 70 patches will be downloaded and installed to your 100 pilot machines. This way, every month when Microsoft releases new patches, always your production environment machines are 1 month behind, and your pilot machines are getting them immediately. Guys, is this process clear to you?
Manohar, I just have a quick query here.
Sure,
You said
sure.
that in 97 patches, right? One patch has got all the 70 patches.
No, 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 no. I didn't mean that. So what I meant was, okay, so out of this 98, let me say that I have a patch number KB 92. There's a patch called KB 92 out of this 98 patches, right? Now, during this 1 month, before Microsoft has released Jan patches, and now Microsoft is releasing in Feb, they're releasing say, patches, right? So during this 1 month, Microsoft has got the feedback both from internal users or from the telemetry. They got an feedback that this particular KB92 is causing Internet Explorer to load slowly. So the performance is affected. Okay. So now what Microsoft will do, they will retire. So in February 2000 when they're releasing, they'll tell that, okay, we are expiring. Okay, come on. We are expiring KB92 and releasing out of the 70 patches, they release a new patch called KB, 100 KB 102, and this patch KB 102 is going to supersede KB92. That means in February, if you are going to install patches to your 9900 machines, you should not install KB92 because not only you experience its slowness, but even Microsoft confirmed that the slowness is there and we are expiring it, and instead of that we have created a new patch called KB102, and 102 is released in February. It is asking you to install KB102 and do not install KB92. So that information you did not get in the month of January, or by end of January you don't have that information. That information you get only when Microsoft releases a new patch in February. That's when they're telling, okay, KB92 is no more required. Install KB102, which is released in this month. So what you will do is, first of all, you will not go ahead with KB102 directly to 9900 machines. What you will do is, you will not install KB92. That's it. You will not install KB102 directly onto this 9000 on the production. You will only minus that one. So from 98 minus 1, 97 patches, install 97 patches to the production environment, and these 70 patches which are released now, which has even the KB102, will be installed to your 100 machines. So only if your 100 machines confirms that everything is working fine, that is when in the month of March this KB102 is going to your 9900 machines. Is this part clear, Amar?
Yeah.
Okay, what about Manju and Sai? Any doubts here? So before I proceed with actual patch management installation, WSUS server and all, I want you to understand the process first. Manju and Sai, you guys are clear?
There is some network problem here, so I will call. I will ask back later. Not
Mhm. Sure, sure. And one more thing, guys, like let me just stop recording for 1 minute. Okay, so yep, so this is about the process. Yeah, so I think we are good to talk about the how do you install these patches. See, first of all, if you have to install OSD, right? OS deployment. If you have to do OS deployment, what is required? You require a Pixie enabled DP. That also you require only when you want to do a network boot. If you don't want to do network boot, right? Maybe you don't need it, but still, Pixie enabled DP is the one which is required for OS deployment. And in the backend, what is required for Pixie enabled DP? You require WDS, Windows Deployment Service, right? Similarly, if you're talking about software distribution, what is that you require? You require DP, distribution point. And what is required in the backend of DP? It uses IAS, right? It uses IAS to create a virtual directory, and then it uses bits, it uses WebDAV and other features of IAS to copy the software content from one location to the other location, right? So it will also use the typical Windows storage concepts as well. That is software distribution. Now, similarly, when we are talking about management point, okay, that is for everything, any communication. Management point again depends on IAS in the background. So these are the what I'm writing on the right side are the typical Windows server services or the server roles, right? Where WDS, IAS, right? Now, similarly, when we are talking about software updates, what is required? The role within SCM is called SUP, software update point, and it depends on WSUS, right? So again, WSUS is kind of a server role and a service, right guys? So these are the default services, and you don't need to pay any additional license, or you don't need to download them on your operating system. Those are inbuilt, and you just need to add those roles and start those services, right? Now even without SCCM, let's see how your machines are currently patched. So there are two ways. One, you all must have seen from your control panel, you have this Windows Update thing, which will periodically check for updates and automatically download. As I was telling you, you have Windows Updates, and the options that you have is auto download and install, download but notify you, and only if you want it to install at a particular time it will install it. The other one is just notify that there are new patches, and based on that you will decide whether to download or install them or not, right? So this is typically what you do in your Windows updates. Apart from this, since this is not helping you in mass deployments, this is a kind of a setting which you need to do on each and every single machine, or you can use a group policy to do this, to have this setting on your machines. But then there's no way you can test the patches, right? There's no way you can test the patches, and as and when Microsoft is releasing, there's no way you can choose which patches you need and which patches you don't need. So you're losing that functionality here. So let me note down what is the con side of this. The con side is you cannot choose the patches, because you can choose the patches individually on each machine, but when we are talking about mass deployment, like you have 10,000 machines, can you choose on each machine which patches are required, which are not required, right? So you cannot select or choose the patches, right? Similarly, there is no standard reporting. You don't know how many machines have got what patches, so there's no standard reporting you have, right? And centralized management, like what we are talking about, the group policy. So with the help of group policy, all you can do is whether it has to download and install, or it should not download, only that part you can select, but rest everything is not under your control, right? So this is the concept of the just having Windows updates. But if you have something like WSUS, okay, at least you can choose what patches you need. So what this WSUS will do, it will download from Microsoft Update server. So from Microsoft Update server, in the WSUS console, you can say, okay, I need Windows 7 patches, I need Windows 10 patches, okay, and I want it to download these patches on every second Tuesday. So every second Tuesday, a cycle will run from WSUS, which will talk to the Microsoft Update server, and it will fetch the new patches which are released by Microsoft Update and put it on your WSUS server. Now, using a group policy, you will say that, okay, my client machine should not go to Microsoft Update server by default. They all should go to my internal server, which is wss.mailapp.com, right? Now, that is a group policy setting. Now, what will happen with respect to this auto download and install group policy? They will auto download and install, but where are they going to download? They're going to your WSS server, and from there they are installing. So what do you have in your WSUS? Already selected patches are there. That means selected patches you are able to auto download and install to your client machines with the help of WSUS and group policy. Guys, are you clear with this part, or you want me to explain again?
Clear.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So basically, Windows Update is just giving you the auto download and install group policy. With the help of group policy you can do that. However, you cannot choose the patches, or there is no standard reporting. With the help of WSUS, you can choose what patches you need. So only those patches will be downloaded to your internal WSUS server from Microsoft Update server, and those patches will get installed as with the help of the group policy, what and all group policy you selected, right? That is this part, but still reporting is missing here, right? Compliance is missing here. So you cannot tell what is meant by compliance. Compliance is like each company will have their own compliance, like, okay, if I have 10,000 machines, okay, and Microsoft releases patches in the month of Jan 2017, okay, I'm assuming that today is, okay, let's go with the real-time example, right? Today is 1st June, right? 1st June 2017. So at any given point of time, if I have at least 9,500 machines out of 10,000 machines, if I have patches that are released till April 2017. Okay, patches that are released till April 2017, if they're installed on at least 9,500 machines out of 10,000 machines, then I'm compliant. So this is a compliance policy which each company will have. So they will have their own compliance policies, right? So what they're saying is, even if 500 machines may not have the policies because of maybe those are remote users, they don't connect to the environment frequently, or sometimes what will happen in a company, you have employees terminate, or they leave the company, but uh, the offboarding, right? During onboarding, you are giving them a laptop, you are creating an account in Active Directory, everything you're doing. But once the employee terminates, maybe you'll delete his user account, but his computer account is still lying there for certain time, right? So what will happen if you're going by the number of computers in the domain, you might still see 10,000 machines there, but actually some 50 machines were all they are just names in Active Directory, but there is no physical laptop or physical desktop that has been already rebuilt and given to another user, right? So there might be duplicates in your Active Directory. So considering such kind of duplicates and such kind of machines which are not reachable, or sometimes you have test machines. There you'll have some VMs which are there in your environment, which you keep on taking snapshots and revert back and using for some kind of testing purposes or some development purposes. You're using them. Their names are still there in Active Directory, but you're not really worried about patching those machines, because every time you revert back to the earlier version and take a new snapshot. So such kind of machines, so considering them of 5%, so companies will decide like, okay, even if 9,500 machines are having patches released till April, right? Not even till May, because I said that till June, anyways, you are not going to install all those patches. You need to wait for 1 month, right? And even once you're pushing those patches, it might take to go through or to penetrate to all these 10,000 machines. It might take like 15 days to 20 days, because different these 10,000 machines are in different time zones. They're all not up and running at every given point of time, right? So considering them, maybe it might take 10-15 days for them to install the patches, restart and install new patches and all that. So this is a compliance statement, right guys? Now, how do you identify how many of these machines are compliant? From WSUs, it's not possible, right? You don't have a centralized information about all the client machines and how many patches are there and all that information. And second thing, say suppose a patch failed to install on 100 machines. How do you get a report out of it? Why it failed on specifically on those 100 machines? WSS does not have that information, right? So you don't know how many machines are compliant, how many machines have failed patches and why they failed, right? And not just that, you can't do a targeted push. That means you cannot push onto some 50 machines, 100 machines, 200 machines to troubleshooting, or no, on priority you wanted to deploy on some 100 machines immediately you wanted to deploy. You can't do that, because there the client machines are periodically checking and they're connecting to the WSUS server and downloading the patches. That means they're pulling the patches. The WSUS have no control to push and deploy to the end user machines. It is just lying over there with all the patches, and the client machines are connecting to it and downloading the patches, right? So that's a pull mechanism. So where is the target push? So there is no target push. If you want to just deploy patches onto 100 machines, 200 machines, that's not possible. The client machines have to contact to the server and download and install. You're getting me, guys? So that kind of targeted push is missing in WSUS. And
So that WSS only any service required, or just to install WSS and then it will work?
no, you need to install WSUS. You need to install WSUS. You need to have a WSUS database in the backend, and so that WSUS periodically synchronizes those patches from Microsoft Update Server and only then all those patches are readily available. And as I told you, the client machines with the help of group policy, they will know that they should not go to Microsoft Update Server, they have to go to WSUS, and periodically they'll keep on checking WSUS server that do I have any new patches, do you have any new updates, and download from there. So this is kind of a pull mechanism. You need to install it. It's not just running a service will not happen. It's a member server. Create a member server. Take any 2012 member server. Install WSUS role on that.
I mean, task along with the WSS, any services are only individually WSS is enough. Okay, got it.
Okay, individually WSUS is enough. So any server, if you just have that, add the role of WSUS, and in the backend, as I told you, you need to have a database. So that means you need to. It depends on SQL as well. You can have SQL, or you can have a. So there is something called Windows internal database. Even if without SQL, also you can still manage it. Fine. So where are we? Yeah, we are talking about targeted pushing, right? Now forget about your client machines. Enough of talking about the client machines. What about servers? You wanted to push patches to servers as well, right? You have server 2003 servers, you have 2012 server in your environment. So how are you going to push patches to these servers? All right. So for these servers, the only difference is patches installing, downloading, testing, everything is fine. Even for out of servers also, you can have some pilot servers, right, which are not production critical servers. You can have them as pilot servers and you can install patches. You can follow the same process what we are doing in the workstations. But the key difference here is client machines can be restarted at any given point of time, right? You can just give them a notification saying that, okay, I'm going to restart your machine after 10 hours. I have just installed patches. So you have 10 hours of time. Within these 10 hours, either you restart your machine, right? If you don't restart after 10 hours, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a notification saying that next 15 minutes your machine is going to restart, save your data. If not, forcefully the machine is going to restart. So that kind of a notification can be sent. You're giving ample time to the end user. If not, you're finally forcing him to restart the machine so that the updates are installed and configured properly, right? But this cannot be done on a server. You cannot just give a notification to the server and restart the machine, because servers are those are critical, business critical machines, right? So what you need to do is, for servers, you need to have maintenance windows, right? So during the maintenance windows, like as I was telling you over the weekend, you want to install patches on those, or maybe during non-peak hours, like midnight, 12 o'clock to early morning 3 o'clock. So those are non-peak hours. That is when you wanted to install patches. So creating these maintenance windows and installing patches to these servers, right, only during the maintenance windows, again, is a challenge when you have just WSUS, right? With the help of WSUS, since you cannot do a targeted push, you cannot even have maintenance windows. What you can do is uh, during, say, suppose you take a maintenance windows like in every month, maybe third Saturday or third Sunday is a maintenance window time. Okay, third Saturday you do it over the midnight, so that even if some issue happens, you'll have the whole Sunday to work and fix it. By Monday morning the servers are back, right? So third Saturday is when you are installing the patches. So if you just have WSUS, what you need to do is you have to log into each and every server, right? And then you trigger the check for updates thing, so that they connect to the WSUS. So that is kind of a, you are running those patches only during that maintenance window. So during Saturday night, you log into each server and then trigger the check for updates thing and make sure that they are connecting to WSS, install. And after installing, if a restart is required, you restart the machine, again bring it up. So after that, again, it will start downloading new patches, right? So there might be 3 or 4 restarts which are required. So you have to have heavily touch these machines to make sure that in proper maintenance window and these patches are installed on them, right? So these are the con sides when you just have WSUS. When you have SCCM, guys, are you clear with maintenance window? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So when you're talking with SCCM, about SCCM, so what happens here? First thing, you are creating, you know, you are deploying these patches. First of all, okay, you are distributing these patches to local SUPs. So maybe you no need to have just one SUP. You can have multiple SUPs, right? And so that whenever a client machine requires a patch, right, they connect to a different SUP and then they download. So load sharing is there, first point, instead of just having one WSUS. So here you have load sharing. Second thing, you can select what patches are needed for your environment. This is for entire environment, right? So that means, say suppose you have Win 7, Win 8, right? And then you have 2003 server, 2008, 2012 R2, and you have Office 2010, Office 2013. So all Microsoft products, operating systems. So there are, for everything you have patches. So you'll select, okay, these are the patches, these are the applications for which I need, these are the operating system for which I need patches. Now all of them are downloaded to your server, right? But then what is required for Windows 7 machine? It doesn't require all the other patches. It requires only Windows 7 related patches, right? So a machine which has Windows 8 with Office 2010, it requires only those patches. It doesn't require Windows 7 patches or Office 2013 patches, right? So how is that happening? So in the backend, you will have a scan cycle running. Okay, scan cycle will run on each client machine. So you have client agent, right? So on the client agent, you have a scan cycle. So this scan cycle will run and it will check, okay, these are the patches which are available on the server. Out of these patches, what are required for this particular machine, right? And based on that, it will mention that, okay, on the server, I see some 2000 patches which are related to all different operating system, different products and technologies. However, this specific Windows 7 machine with Office 2013, it requires only some 50 patches. Out of these 2000 patches, it requires only 50 patches. So that's a scan cycle will run and informs Sccm server, and now Sccm server knows that I have to push only these 50 patches to this machine. I no need to push the entire 2000 patches. I have to push only 50 patches. Guys, are you clear that a scan cycle runs on each client agent and it reports to Sccm server, and only required patches are downloaded and installed? Though you have all the 2000 patches there, only required patches are downloaded and installed on each and every single machine. Is this point clear? Okay. Next, what you can do here is you can create a collection and deploy patches. That means what you are doing here is a targeted push. So in a collection, you can have only 100 machines, 50 machines, even a single machine, and deploy patches to that. So now because you are creating a collection and deploying the patches, these client machines will get the policy, right? Management point, talking to management point, then to this SUP, downloading the patches, installing. So all that other stuff is same, just like your packages, applications, and other. So that step is same. But the initial thing, you are now doing a targeted push. Similarly, you have maintenance windows here. So what you can do, you can create a collection. In Sccm, you can create a collection, okay, for your production servers. Even in production servers, say suppose servers in EMEA, you create a collection called EMEA servers, right? Europe and Middle East servers. And then you create a maintenance window for them, saying that the maintenance window is between on 3rd Saturday between 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. Now what will happen, even if you push the patches to this particular collection, they will install only between 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. Even the patches are pushed on, on the 2nd Saturday itself, the patches will be lying on that. So they will, you can configure in such a way that the patches will be downloaded, so that before 3rd Saturday, all these patches will download and sit on that machine. However, it will not install. It will wait till 3rd Saturday, 1 o'clock in the morning. So the moment 1 a.m., automatically these patches, since they are already downloaded, they'll start installing. So that will save your time. Instead of downloading, then start downloading. So 1 week prior only you have deployed. So during this 1 week, they are downloaded, and at 1 a.m. it starts installing. And if any patch requires a restart, it automatically restarts, and then it resumes back with the next patch. So this way you don't need to have any user interaction on that particular server. So during that 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. it will install the patches. And say suppose if there is a patch, installation is going beyond 4 a.m. Okay, already some 10 patches are installed, there is still 11th patch, right? You can always have the option to select whether to install the patches beyond the deadline, or since the deadline has passed, should I stop just with the 10 patches and stop it there itself. So you have that option. So accordingly you can select the option and make sure that within 4 o'clock all my patches are installed, or within 4 o'clock till wherever patches are installed, leave it till there, because that is the maintenance window. If I have to install any further patches, if it is taking more time, I have to do it. I have to go through a change management process and let the leadership team or your whoever your management team, they come back and say that okay, since some 5 patches are missing, go ahead and install them on 4th Saturday or something like that. You will take a change management approval and then you'll install those patches. Or else if it is not that critical, maybe you're okay till even if it goes by spills by an hour or 2 hours till morning 6 o'clock, you'll go ahead and install it. So that is again depends from company to company. Okay, I see Sai, you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, Manar, you just said about the restart, but we cannot restart the servers in the production time or else without any intimation. So my question is whether we can schedule the restart part also.
Exactly. So what we are doing here is when I'm saying maintenance window between 1 a.m. to 4 a.m., that means we have already informed the management and taken a change management approval that they are aware that these servers are expected to restart between 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. Right. So that is the whole purpose of creating a maintenance window. We are not doing during the production hours. We are already taken a third Saturday, which is Saturday. We are expecting it is a non-production time, and that too in a non-peak hours like 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. That is a maintenance window when we are installing patches. And the whole point of taking a maintenance window is we are expecting even if they are restarted, it should be okay.
Um, uh, so I
Did,
mean,
did,
in
did I
case
understood
if
your question correctly?
yes, yes, but here you have given some 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. right? In this time, we cannot predict when the server can restart, but what my question is, um, we cannot schedule a particular time. I mean, we cannot delay the restart or something like that.
No, what you can do is instead of restarting after each patch or after each patch, what you can say is after all the patches are installed, right, you can restart. You cannot schedule the restart as such, like you cannot put a time, give it a time, because you never know when the patches will get installed, right? So if you are starting at 1 o'clock, you don't know how much time it will take to install the patch, all the 15 patches or 20 patches you have for that month. So you cannot keep a scheduled restart there, right? But what you can do is you can tell it, you can configure in such a way that okay, after all the patches are installed, restart at the end, or restart after each and every patch. So that option is there. Is that clear?
Okay, ma'am.
See, why? Because see, since you have already taken a maintenance window, that means you should be okay. Your company should be okay that even if the production servers are getting restarted in that particular time, it is for the benefit of the those servers protection itself. It is a security measure. So security takes precedence over anything else, right? But still you are taking a change management approval, and without restart you cannot have all these patches installed. And sometimes what will happen, let me tell you, say suppose if you have 10 KB, 10 patches to be installed on that day, okay? Unless and until a restart happens for KB7, okay? Unless and until a restart happens for a certain KB7, only then KB7 is considered to be installed completely, and only then KB8 will install. Sometimes there will be such kind of interdependencies that KB8 will not install without KB7 is installed and restarted. So such kind of dependencies will be there. So there might be multiple restarts which will happen between 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. That is expected, and that is set. See, let me tell you a common example. See, when you're going to railway station, what kind of checks they will do? Security checks, very minimal, right? When you're going to bus stand, what kinds of checks they do? Very minimal. But when you're going to airport, what kind of checks they do? those are international. So when you're going to an international airport from one location to another location, so there are multiple checks which you go through, right? Right from your security check, your bag is checked, and everything else is also checked. So, and you know that this entire process is going to take 1 hour, and we always tell, okay, if you're going for a flight, domestic flight or an international flight, it is expected, okay, expectations are set in such a way that you have to go 3 hours prior, you have to go for 4 hours prior, because the checking will take time, the security checks will take time, right? The boarding will take time. So there is a process, and people follow it. But for railway, if you have to catch a train, you even go for 2 minutes late, or even ask your friend to pull the chain and you'll get into the train. That's the thing, right? So why I'm telling this thing is, when it is mandatory, when the security is mandatory, you'll set the process, you'll set the expectation, you'll tell that, okay, this thing is a mandatory process and it is going to reboot the servers on every third Saturday. You expect it from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. Once it is set as a process, nobody will object it. People will follow the process. That's been followed across the globe. So I don't think restarting between 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. should be a problem. Like you don't need to schedule it exactly at 3:40. It should restart or something like that. Did I answer your question, Sai?
Yeah, man.
Okay. So any other questions, Sai or Manju Amar?
When you're doing practical, that these patches will be getting downloaded, and it is downloaded and path and the place and installed one path and there. So we'll be showing it in practical, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So just like we have done software distribution, operating system deployment, we have done practicals, right? So similarly, even patch management, we'll do practically. We'll download and install the patches from SCM. We'll do that.
Okay, then maybe there I will may uh, have some questions. I will ask them.
Sure, sure, sure. Amar, is this maintenance Windows concept clear to you? Amar, are you still with us? Okay. So
He left.
no, no, I can see that he's still there. Maybe he is away from the desk. No issues. Where are we? Yeah, so distributing of patches is one thing which we get from the Sccm. Then the scan cycle, creating collections and deploy patches. So that's a targeted push we are doing, and we are doing it. We can create maintenance windows, right? So apart from this, reporting, like as I told you, patch failed on 100 machines. So now you can pull out a report and say, okay, on how many machines it failed and what is the reason why it is failed. So what was the error which was generated from the patch when it failed? Maybe it says that a reboot is required. That's the reason I failed. On that machine, there's a pending reboot. Sometimes what will happen on a server, there will be a pending reboot. On a client machine, there will be a pending reboot. So that's a registry, right? You all know that there's a registry called pending reboot. So if the registry says that there is a pending reboot, patches will not install. It will wait for the reboot to complete, and only then it can install. Yes, I see you raised hand.
Uh, yeah, man. Coming, if we face any issue with the patches, uh, we can also roll back, right?
Yes, yes. We can also roll back.
So in this reporting, I mean, if some update gets failed, we can see it in the reporting. So what I want to ask is to roll back the servers, the backup. I mean, every backup will be taken by the SCCM.
No, 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 no. SCM is not taking the backups as such. So that depends on the kind of system restore point. So that is entirely different. So if you have system restore points, or if you have any imaging concept, right? So that's entirely different. So SCM as part of patch management, it is not taking any system restore points.
Okay.
So if you already have a cycle of backups, if you have a cycle of backups for your servers, right? It could be Windows backup, or if any third-party tool which is taking a backup of your servers, right? You can use those to roll back to the earlier version. So that is there, but as you asked, like there's nothing that SCM will take backups of your machine.
Okay, because I've seen in some cases where the patches getting updated and after that the client machine, this is not related to the server, the client machines are probably populating with the blue screen error. So where again they need to format the total laptop. I've seen it in my environment.
Yes, so if I understood correctly, what you're saying is after patches are installed, you're seeing BSOD error, right? And they had to rebuild the machine, format and rebuild the machine, right?
Yes, yes.
So that's where, to avoid that, we are doing two things here. One is we have pilot machines. So wherein before installing these patches on the production environment, you have a process like pilot machines are the frontline machines, wherein if you're getting any BSOD on those pilot machines, you're still okay because those are test machines, those are pilot machines, right? So that's one thing. Second thing is you have operating system deployment. You have already have operating system deployment, image and everything ready, and you know that to bring back the machine to up to the standards, it is an automated process. You don't need to get onto the machine. Somebody has to rebuild and give the machine to the end user. So immediately you trigger OSD. So you know it will take 1.5 hours to bring back the machine with all the patches till last month, right? So that's the reason you have this pilot, and so if at all there are any issues with a particular patch, you're waiting for a month before putting to production. So within that month, not only you're waiting for Microsoft to test all those patches and listen to the feedback, even you are also testing on your pilot machines, and based on that you're taking an action, right, Sai?
Okay.
So what's the
So
process
you mean
for?
to say we'll be taking some
Sorry.
10 to 12, I mean, you mean to say we'll be just first testing some I mean the updates and everything in 10 or 12 client systems or else servers, and then we proceed further, right?
Yeah, so that's what we just discussed here, right? So that is what we were talking here about. Out of 10,000 machines, you have to pick 100 pilot machines. Right, since you're picking up 100 pilot machines and you're pushing on them, that's when you're going to know if there are any issues or anything. So that's what I mentioned here. So you'll have the visible errors like BSOD or any recorded errors in the event viewer. You're waiting for 1 month for the user experience. Only then you're pushing into the other 9,900. That way you're saving your 9,900 machines.
Okay, okay.
Okay. So yeah, Manju, go ahead, Manju.
Yeah, yeah. No, no. I was trying to recollect the question I was about. Yeah. So my question is like in my production area, I don't know how the people are doing it. I'm not having the proper information. So just want to ask you, in if it is a real, then what is the best practice for the patch management procedure? Like patches will be getting released from Microsoft every month, second Tuesday. I understood that. After that, once it is downloaded, how we will be? What is the best practice to get it circulated to everywhere, including the test? So, I just want to ask the procedure. What is the best practice? How?
Okay, so if I understand correctly, you're asking like what is the best practice to install these patches? So once Microsoft releasing a patch Tuesday, what is the best practice to install these patches to the production environment? Is that the question?
Yeah. What is the way? Yeah. What is the way? In test environment like that, and then go live to the production.
Yep, yep. So that is what buddies. So that is what I explained here. Like, so the best practice is you have to install, say suppose if you have 10,000 machines, I was telling you like you have to pick some 100 pilot machines. So that's just an example out of 10,000 So in your case, if you have 50,000 machines or whatever, pick some 100 or 500 machines as pilot machine, maybe even 50 machines as pilot machines. And I told you that you need to pick these machines in a way that they are a mixture of different kind of operating system languages that you have, different kind of application versions that they're using. So based on that, you're picking some machines, test machines, right? On those test machines, you are installing these patches first. So that's the best practice. So first of all, you have to install it on a pilot machines. So you create a pilot collection. Now, since we are talking about Sccm, you will create a collection called pilot machines, and on those, on that collection, you'll have all these different 100 machines there, and you're targeting your, say suppose in the month of May, you're targeting your May month patches, which are released by Microsoft just on to Patch Tuesday. On Wednesday, you're deploying all these patches to your 100 machines collection, right? And you wait for 1 month to get the results. So meanwhile, on the same month, let me put it in a system collection way now. You create two collections. Collection one is pilot collection. You have collection two, production. I'm talking about client machines. Okay, you have 100 here. You have 100 pilot machines, and you have 9,900 production machines. So you have two collections. Now you have patches released in the month of updates released in the month of April 2017, and there is one more updates which are released in May 2017, right? So this I'm calling it as, we create in Sccm you call them as software update groups. So I'll call this as SUG1 and SUG1, and I have software update group 2. This we will see when we are doing practical. So you have software update group 2 and software update group 1. Now what you'll do, you'll deploy software update group 1 to collection 2. The one which are released in April will be pushed to the production machines now, but the one which are released today, that is in the May, these are the recent patches which are released, software update group 2, you're pushing them to collection 1. So you're pushing these May patches to 100 pilot machines, and you're pushing the April patches to 9,900 machines. Now say suppose in the month of June you have updates June 2017, that is software update group 3. So now what will happen in the month of June? In the month of June, what you will do here, you will install, you will deploy SUG2 to collection 2, because by the month of June this SUG 2, which is May 2017, is 1 month old now. In the month of June, this is 1 month old. So 1 month old patches can be pushed to the production machines now, right? Because they are already tested. SUG2 was already tested in the, this is May month. In May month, these are already tested on 100 pilot machines. Now they're ready in the month of June, they're ready to be pushed to 9,900, right? And here what you're doing, SUG3, which are just released in the month of June, you are pushing them to collection 1. So this is the every month cycle, that new patches are pushed to the pilot machines, old patches are pushed to the production machines. So this is the standard practice you follow. Did I answer your question, Manju?
Yeah. So this is actually I thought I pulled you to a wrong way of asking question, but there is also some of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
My actual question is like uh, when we deploy or do something patch management, what is the gap like with the testing part and production part we will have it? How many days or month under observation to do go ahead with the live? Like that I was trying to ask.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
I
if you
asked
observe,
something.
so if you observe here, so the gap that I'm giving is 1 month, right? From, if in the month of May I'm pushing April patches, in the month of June I'm pushing May patches. That means I'm giving a gap of 1 month. So anything minimum 1 month to 3 months. That's what I've seen. So once they push it to a pilot machine, they'll wait for 1 month to 3 months before pushing it to the production machines. If that is the question that you're asking, so minimum 30 days to 90 days.
No, I observed that 1 month you're given. So 1 month to 3 month will be a practice, is it?
Yes, yes. So the
For
practice
test
is,
for test and for test and production.
yes, yes, true, true. So minimum is 1 month, because at least because by the time Microsoft releases the next patches, you have to you need to test them. So you don't install before Microsoft releases next month patches. You don't install them on the production environment. So minimum I have seen is 1 month for testing, and maximum is 3 months. Because if you're going beyond 3 months, you're actually the main purpose is defeated. The main purpose is, if at all somebody is trying to access your security loophole to protect your machines, Microsoft has taken an initiative and they are sending you a security update in the month of April. Until June, July, you're not installing it. So that is too much of delay. 3 months is too much of delay, right? So beyond 3 months is not acceptable. So just take the example of ransomware, for example, right? So such kind of critical issues, if you're just waiting for 1 month to 3 months without installing the patches, so you're leaving your machines unsafe, right? So maximum is what I've seen is 3 months. That too for environments which are very big, and they know that they want it to be very meticulous and 100% sure before they install the patches to their production environment. So they will wait for maximum of 3 months, but I haven't seen anything beyond that, 1 to 3 months.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, guys? Okay. So I think we have discussed good theory today. We have discussed about, let me quickly show it to you from here. So we discussed about when Microsoft releases the patches, and what are different updates that they release: security update, critical upgrades, hotfix, and service packs. Then I've explained what is the service pack and how Microsoft will supersede the uh, new old patches with the newer ones. We discussed about Windows as a service, CB, CBB, and LTSB, right? And the standard best practice of patch management process. So you need to do first testing on pilot and then on the production. And then we discussed about what is the core component which is required for software updates to run. So in the backend, it depends on WSUS. Then we discussed about what are the different ways of installing patches. Right from your home machines, you go with Windows updates, or you can have a group policy in your environment, but then there are some cons to it. So to avoid that, you can go to WSUS, but even WSUS has some kind of limitations there, like you cannot have a targeted push, you cannot have a compliance reporting, right? So and you cannot have maintenance windows. So to overcome that, you go with Sccm, wherein you can distribute patches to local SCPs, which is like load sharing. Then you can select what patches are required. Then there is something called a scan cycle which will run and see what patches are required for that client machine, right? You can do a targeted push. You can create a collection and deploy, and then maintenance windows can be created, uh, so which will make sure that your servers are getting patches only in during the non-peak hours, and they are getting rebooted only in the non-peak hours. And after that, you can also get a reporting out of it for the compliance report, how many patches failed, how many patches installed, and all that. Then we discussed about the best practice, right? So this is the theory that we have covered. So tomorrow we'll go ahead and install the actual WSUS prerequisites, and then the SCP server, and we'll try to synchronize the Microsoft updates. And in the for further classes, we'll see how they'll get installed onto the client machine, and how do you pull reports out of it, and how do you troubleshoot them. Is this clear, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's meet tomorrow. Have a nice day.
You can stop the recording so that I can ask
Sure,
questions.
sure.